When Yaman's eyes filled with tears, fans immediately knew this wasn't about fame, rumors, or another passing headline. This was personal. Deeply personal. According to people close to him, the breaking point wasn't criticism or pressure, it was his mother. And what Sara Bluma allegedly did involving Yaman's mother cut far deeper than anyone expected. For years, Ken has been fiercely protective of his family, especially his mother. She has always been the quiet anchor in his life, staying far from the spotlight while supporting him from the shadows. That's why the moment her name entered the conversation, everything changed. Insiders say Ken's emotional reaction wasn't staged, exaggerated, or misunderstood. It was immediate and uncontrollable. Tears appeared before words did. Sources claim the situation unfolded privately, far from cameras, but its impact was powerful enough to reach the surface. Whatever happened, it crossed an invisible line. Friends noticed a shift in Ken almost instantly. His posture changed. His voice softened. The usual confidence was replaced by visible restraint, as if he was holding himself together by force. According to one insider, it wasn't anger first. It was hurt. What shocked those around him most was how quickly the issue escalated from a personal disagreement into something that affected his family. Ken reportedly never expected his mother to be pulled into an emotional situation tied to his relationship. And when she was, even indirectly, it triggered a response no one had seen from him before. His tears weren't just sadness, they were protection, disappointment, and guilt colliding all at once. Fans soon began connecting dots. Subtle comments. Missed appearances. A noticeable silence from both sides. The puzzle pieces suggested that this wasn't a simple misunderstanding, but a moment where boundaries were crossed. And for Yaman, family boundaries are sacred. Once crossed, they change everything. As more details slowly surfaced, it became clear why Yaman's reaction was so raw. According to insiders, the issue wasn't a direct confrontation, but something far more subtle and painful. Sara Bluma was allegedly involved in a situation where Ken's mother felt uncomfortable and emotionally exposed. No shouting. No public scene. Just a moment that made her feel dragged into a story she never wanted to be part of. And for Ken, that was unforgivable. Sources say Ken learned about it afterward. Not immediately. Not directly. He noticed the change in his mother first. Her tone on the phone. The way she avoided certain topics. The hesitation where warmth used to be. That's when he knew something was wrong. And when he finally understood what had happened, the emotional weight hit him all at once. This wasn't hearsay, it was his mother's silence that confirmed it. Those close to Ken described the moment as devastating. He reportedly blamed himself before blaming anyone else. He felt responsible for allowing his private life to spill over into his family's peace. His tears were not just for his mother, but for the realization that the people closest to him had paid a price for his choices. What made it worse was the feeling that the situation could have been avoided. According to sources, boundaries had been discussed before. Lines had been quietly drawn. And yet, somehow, those lines were crossed. Whether intentionally or not no longer mattered. The damage was already done. As the emotional impact settled, the silence between all sides became heavier. According to people close to the family, Ken's mother never asked to be defended publicly. She didn't want statements, confrontations, or explanations. Her reaction was quiet withdrawal. And that, more than anything, shattered Ken. He had always believed he could shield her from the chaos of his public life. Realizing that shield had failed left him visibly shaken. Insiders say Ken confronted the situation privately, not with anger at first, but with disbelief. He wanted to understand how something meant to stay personal had reached his mother at all. The answers he received only deepened the hurt. What may have seemed minor or indirect to others felt invasive to her. And for Ken, intent no longer mattered, impact did. Those close to Sara insist there was no deliberate attempt to hurt Ken's mother, but they also admit sensitivity was underestimated. What one person considers harmless can feel deeply intrusive to someone who has spent her life away from cameras and commentary. This difference in perspective became the core of the rupture. Ken didn't see a misunderstanding. He saw a failure to respect a boundary he had made clear. As word of his emotional state spread, fans began reacting differently. The narrative shifted from curiosity to concern. Clips were rewatched. Old interviews resurfaced where Ken spoke about his mother with visible emotion. His words from years earlier suddenly felt prophetic. Privately, Ken began pulling back even more. According to insiders, he limited conversations, canceled meetings, and avoided any environment that risked reopening the wound. The tears people noticed were not a momentary collapse. They were the surface of a deeper struggle. A son torn between love, guilt, and the realization that some lines, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. As the situation unfolded further, the distance between Ken and Sara became impossible to ignore. According to insiders, this wasn't a dramatic decision made in anger. It was a quiet withdrawal driven by protection. Ken reportedly felt that if his mother had been affected once, it could happen again. And that possibility alone was enough for him to pull back completely. This wasn't about winning an argument or proving a point. It was about safeguarding the one person he could not afford to see hurt. Those close to Ken say he struggled deeply with the emotional weight of the situation. He replayed conversations in his mind, questioning what he could have done differently. His tears came from self-blame as much as pain. Meanwhile, Sara's position grew increasingly complicated. According to sources, she became aware that something involving Ken's mother had caused irreversible damage, but by then it was too late. Any attempt to explain risked being seen as justification. Any silence risked being interpreted as indifference. The situation had moved beyond words. What was broken wasn't communication. It was trust. Fans began noticing a clear shift in how Ken spoke about boundaries. In subtle comments and carefully chosen phrases, he emphasized privacy, family, and emotional safety more than ever before. These weren't random remarks. They were reflections of a lesson learned painfully. By now, the tears that first shocked everyone made complete sense. They weren't a reaction to a single incident, but the emotional release of someone realizing that love, no matter how intense, cannot justify crossing certain lines. By the time everything settled, one truth stood above the noise. This was never about drama, headlines, or public opinion. It was about a line that, once crossed, changed how Yaman saw everything around him. The moment his mother was affected, the relationship entered a space it could never return from. Not because of anger alone, but because of instinct. Protection. Loyalty. Ken's tears were the quiet collapse of someone realizing that love does not always shield the people we care about. He had built his life trying to separate his public world from his private one. Seeing those worlds collide through his mother was the one thing he could not process without breaking. Insiders say that after that moment, Ken became resolute. Not cold. Not cruel. Just firm. The distance he created wasn't punishment. It was prevention. Sara, meanwhile, remained largely silent. According to sources, she understood that nothing she could say would undo what had already happened. The story had moved beyond apology or clarification. It had become about consequence. As fans reflected on the situation, the narrative shifted once more. What initially seemed like mystery turned into empathy. People didn't need every detail to understand why Yaman cried. They only needed to understand one thing: his mother matters more than anything else. And when that bond is shaken, even the strongest exterior can crack. In the end, there was no villain, no victory, no dramatic resolution. Only a reminder that behind every public figure is a private world with fragile boundaries. Boundaries that, when crossed, leave marks that tears alone cannot erase. And for Yaman, those tears told a story no headline ever could. Even after the public attention slowly began to fade, the emotional consequences did not. According to insiders, the real aftermath started when everything went quiet. No headlines. No speculation. Just the reality of what had happened settling in. Yaman was no longer reacting, he was processing. And that process, those close to him say, was far heavier than the tears people initially saw. Sources describe a period of deep introspection. Reportedly spent more time away from noise, from familiar social circles, from anything that reminded him of the emotional breach involving his mother. It wasn't avoidance. It was protection through distance. He needed space not only from people, but from versions of himself tied to that moment. The pain had shifted from immediate shock to something slower and more reflective. What struck many around him was how carefully he began guarding his private world afterward. Conversations became shorter. Trust became more selective. Mentions of family were treated with visible caution. According to insiders, this wasn't bitterness, it was learning. A quiet decision to never allow that boundary to be tested again. Once a person sees how fragile peace can be, they stop taking it for granted. Fans who followed closely noticed the change too. Not through words, but through absence. Fewer spontaneous moments. Fewer emotional slips. Appeared more composed, but also more distant. And those who understood the situation realized why. The tears had already done their work. They had drawn a line not just between people, but between phases of his life. In the end, what lingered wasn't anger towards Sara Bluma, nor a desire to explain or accuse. What remained was clarity. A painful, irreversible clarity that some connections, once they reach into family, cannot survive unchanged. For Yaman, that realization became a turning point. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just permanent. And sometimes, the quiet endings are the ones that shape us the most.